Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Palm Tree Sports. I am your host, Corey Pujols, and of course, it is brought to you by Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And good evening on this Saturday, this beautiful Saturday over here. We're having wonderful weather down here, down south. It's about 64 degrees right now, and I can tell you right now, I could sit outside for an hour. But we're going to go ahead and get started with everything going on the show today. We're going to go ahead and start with Tampa Bay. The big part of the segment is going to be Tampa Bay and discussing a lot of what's going on. There's a lot of drama here in Tampa, of course, considering the loss to the Cowboys, considering the fact that Tom Brady is going to be a free agent along with a bunch of other guys. We'll get into all of that. Then, of course, we'll make our rounds. We'll talk about the Jaguars who are playing right now. The score of that ball game from what I last saw, 17-10 at the half, in the Chiefs' favor. So, we're going to have to wait and see what happens there. Of course, we're going to cover the rest of the teams. But before we get to that, I just want to say thank you to all those who listen to the show and who have the input that you guys have. The feedback, everything helps out a lot. And, we're going to go ahead and incorporate everything into the mix. And with that being said, we also have Miami back in the mix. So, of course, I'll be talking about some Miami down south sports as well. The Hurricanes, the Miami Dolphins, and of course the Miami Heat, so who are on a bit of a run right now, and they're trying to turn their season around. So we'll go ahead and get into all that. But first things first, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? So of course the big elephant in the room is the performance of the team during that game in the playoffs, the firing of our offensive coordinator, Byron Leftwich, and then of course what's going to happen in the future with Tom Brady. So let's go ahead and break those things down one at a time. First things first, the loss to the Cowboys. It was ugly. I watched it. The score went up 30-6, I think it was, and I turned it off. I could pretty much tell at that point that even if Tom had something to bring back, Dallas was in a groove. Dak Prescott looked unstoppable. He was very poised in the pocket, and when he needed to use his legs to extend plays, he did just that, not just hurt, but burn us. Our defense looked apathetic. They could not handle anything. The run, the pass, Dak Prescott's legs, his vision. I will say, of course, I'm going to call a spade, and even though my team was performing horribly, I won't discount that. But I will also admit that there were at least 3 different holding penalties with a potential 4th that were not called. 2 of them were on scoring plays for Dallas. Okay, so that game could have gone differently if a couple of things that got in our favor, but unfortunately they did not. And as a result, we got the game that we got, which is a 31-14 win by the Dallas Cowboys. At the very least, it should have been a 31-21 win if Mike Evans catches that touchdown pretty late, but unfortunately didn't. And that's something that you don't like to see. It looked good in the Carolina game, and then after that, it just looked back to the old issues again, where it just seems like we can't get out of our own way and stop shooting ourselves in the foot. That's always a downside for a team. No team is ever going to be successful when they're busy shooting themselves in the foot. And with that being said, that leads me to the second thing, which was the firing of Byron Leftwich. So, there's a lot to make of this. You asked the question, the offensive coordinator for a team who just won a Super Bowl 2 years ago, and now he's fired. Well, what happened? I'll tell you what happened. When you're on the outside looking in, one thing that you see is an abundance of talent. And you look at the talent and you say, okay, there's no way this team can be performing on a losing record. With a losing schedule, with the record that they have, is what I mean to say. So you look at the 8-9. That's not good, and that's not something you expect to see from somebody like a Tom Brady, especially when he has the weapons of Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and all the other weapons that there were. Julio Jones, who showed up at times, who's spent most of the year banged up, just like Kyle Rudolph did. But they showed up a couple of times throughout the year, and those are things that you like to see. But the injuries just hurt. The injuries hurt, man. And it was so evident watching that game against Dallas, again, just not being able to move the ball at all on offense, especially in the first half, and you get a little bit of a rhythm but can't seem to bring it home, and those things just add up over a ball game. They really take their toll. So the firing of Byron Leftwich was kind of a result of that, and then also of the play calling, scheming, and production. So when you're calling plays on offense, one of the things that's going to make you successful is being very cognizant of the situation and calling the plays that are necessary to win the game. It doesn't matter about the personnel. This guy's not in, I need to change my play calling. No, you need to stick to the game plan. And when you stick to the game plan, if the game plan is in fact a good game plan, that's how you win games. Okay, you shouldn't have to wait late to the game where Tom Brady's like, okay, now I have to go ahead and magic trick this game. You know what I'm saying? And I hate the fact that when you're watching Tom, it's like, oh, I got to keep the game on because they're only down 14 points and Tom can score 14 points in like 30 seconds. Like, it's one of those things where you're like, do I keep the game on? Do I keep it off? Yeah. I can't stand it. And that's part of the reason why it's just so hard to watch a play caller with this kind of talent only be able to produce around 20 points a game. That's just, pretty pathetic. That's just the nature of the beast. That's me calling a spade a spade. I hate to look at Byron Leftwich and say it's only his fault. It's not just only his fault. Obviously, they mentioned that there were too many people still living off the Super Bowl, and that may very well be the case. And it's not good. Guys, you gotta reinvent yourself every time you go out there. You have to, because you're not playing the same team twice. All right, you're never playing the same team twice. Never. So it's unfortunate. That's how things went. Also for Byron Leftwich, and also the last thing I'll say about him also is his play calling became too predictable. And when you have predictable play calling, you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose. If I know what you're doing, they know what you're doing. That's my logic, especially as somebody watching the game, because I'm not in practice with you guys. So I can only imagine that if the other team knows what you're doing. You see what I'm saying? It's just too predictable. That's the end result. So, that's my take on that situation. I feel bad for Byron, but I hope that he falls into the situation that works best for him, which is probably going to be a situation where he's able to run the ball more effectively and he can go be an offensive coordinator somewhere, and actually help them the way that he knows how to do so. And in this situation, again, I don't completely blame him, but, hey, it is what it is. That's an interesting thing right there, too. With Kyle Trask being in that quarter, he's very, very young. I watched him at Florida, and I felt like in time he could become a very good, quarterback, to say the least. But he's still very unpolished. He still needs more work. He needs more time. And definitely more practice. There's no doubt in my mind about that, even as a Kyle Trask fan. So, I don't believe Tom is coming back. That's actually going to be the next thing that I speak on was Tom. And I was pretty much saving that big part for last simply because, I don't think he's coming back. I look at the situation, I say, okay, Tom, longevity and loyalty and all that good stuff, but let's just be honest. What can Tampa Bay really do to bring him back? Yeah, we have some pieces, but unfortunately, again, it still doesn't take away from the fact that our offensive line played horribly all year long. Okay, we were unable to run the ball. The worst team in the league when it came to running the ball, which means you have to rely heavily on the pass. When you do that, that's a 50-50 ball game, even with Tom at quarterback. And even though, last year he was robbed of MVP and he's still playing at a high level, does that mean that he's in a situation like LeBron, where he's on this Lakers team and everybody's thinking that he's not who he is, when in fact he is still at 38, performing at the way that he is, but he's not on a team that he can show that, really. I mean, he's still showing it, of course, but what does the team's record have to say besides that win streak they went on? So that's just the nature of what's going on with Tom as well. What does he have to show in the last year? And them firing, Byron Leftwich may or may not have helped. I mean, it's a possibility, but we don't know what's going on in Tom's head. He's a very closely guarded individual, and because of that, we have to allow him to have his time and space to figure out what it is that he's going to do next. But most likely, he's not going to come back. I wouldn't be surprised that if Gronk came back and went somewhere, that's where he went, or vice versa. So let's just get ready for that. Who knows where it's going to be? I don't really want to speculate on the quarterback of the future, situation, because there are those who think that, the Ravens messed up Lamar Jackson's, career, when in fact he could come down here. We would be more than happy to have a Lamar Jackson, a dual threat quarterback, to shake things up and just give us something we've never had before as far as that level of dual threat is to be concerned. But he's not the only option. I've heard David Carr. I'd prefer Lamar over David, but I'm not saying that he's a bad quarterback. That's just my take on it. But then again, like I said, who knows what they're really going to do? Cap is also a thing. The draft is also a thing. There's a lot of possibility there. So who knows what's going to happen as far as that's concerned. The last part about the Brady tip is actually some of these other free agents. I'm going to list a couple just to name some of the bigger names, that is. And of course, this isn't the only list, so there's more people. Keep that in mind, guys. But there's also not just Tom Brady. There's Levante David, Akeem Hicks, Julio Jones, Sean Murphy Bunting, Carl Nassib, Logan Ryan, Mike Edwards, Nick Leverett, and of course the other defensive end that we had opposite of Carl Nassib. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but of course once I do, I'll run it by you guys again. So they're all free agents, all guys that had an impact on this team one way or another, and made huge plays that helped seal games or win games in crunch time. So it's just things like this that you see and you're like, all right, what really can the Bucs do? And we're gonna have to wait and have to see, because at the end of the day, you're gonna have to attack the quarterback and the offensive line positioning first. Those are gonna be the two most important things to attack, because without those two things, it's gonna be hard to see how you're gonna do anything, regardless of what division you're in. So that's my take on that situation. We'll see what happens in the future for them. Let's go ahead and move on to the Jaguars, who are currently playing in the playoffs. They have the Chiefs today, and the score, like I mentioned before, was 17-10 at half. I'm not sure if they've come back from half yet, but that's the score of the game. And so I don't know who winning what game in this perspective, but I, of course, I like Patrick Mahomes. I am fond of him. He's a tremendous talent. And, if you watch the game of football, you have to at least respect that part. With that being said, he was injured early on in the game and had to come out. Looks like Chad Henne is going to go ahead and carry this team from that point forward. Don't know if Patty is going to come out and start the second half. He may. So we'll see what happens there. But as far as the Jaguars are concerned, they're in this, and they have just as best shot as anybody, in my opinion. I look at the last time these two teams met. I believe the score of the game was 27-10. They've already scored the 10 points. Now they just have to push past this point and not get lost in the sauce, especially here in the third quarter, and keep it tight late, so that way they can go ahead and seal it, hopefully with a long run from ETN to drain out some clock. That is my thought process for the game. I imagine the game is going to continue to be low scoring. I don't imagine either team getting over 30 points, especially with the way that both of these teams clamp down in the red zone. So that's going to be a big deal. Okay, so Mahomes is back and Chiefs playing. Okay, so it figures. I imagine he's not at 100%, so I'm sure that the Jaguars are going to go ahead and continue to pressure him and continue to make sure that they make their presence known and say, hey, look, you're going to have to get on your first read and hope he's open and not doubled. So we'll see if that's the approach that the Jaguars continue to take. I think it would be good. Obviously, don't give up the big play and just continue to keep their head down and hit whatever moves. So my thoughts as far as the Jaguars are concerned are that, especially after that big win last week, it was huge. It was humongous for them. It was absolutely a breath of fresh air in Jacksonville. Duval was absolutely, ecstatic, and they continue to be up until this point. With that being said, if they can win this game, if and when they win this game, hopefully, they're going to have to continue this momentum on into the next. It doesn't get any easier from here. It's not easy now, but it's not going to get any easier. And that's the other thing that we have to take into consideration. Jags, we have to keep their heads down, like I said, and hit everything that moves, and make sure that they're paying attention and not turning the ball over. Again, I stress the not turning the ball over because I only could imagine how many points the Jags could have put up last week if they, hadn't turned the ball over as many times. So let's just, hope that they continue to stride and pull this game out late. Again, that's what I think it's going to come down to. So we'll have to see in the fourth quarter. And then that leads us to Miami. So my take on Miami and what's going on in Miami right now is very, 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 very simple, okay? I am a Tua Tagovailoa fan. Again, I watched him in college. This is a kid who had a very bright future. You could see that early on with his arm and his football IQ, which he possessed at a very high level as a freshman, okay? So I don't want to see him go down and not be able to play the game. These concussions are ridiculous. All right, it's ridiculous. And what I mean by it's ridiculous, he's not getting protected. He's being hit all kind of ways. The medical field and the coaching staff aren't doing what they're supposed to do. Player safety is key because without the players, you have nothing. So I'm not sure why it is that this situation hadn't been handled more gingerly, especially early on after the first concussion and during that original game where he went down and came back a few days later, went down again, and they were like, hey, this dude's concussed, okay? And he's been concussed probably for 4 or 5 days now, all right? So they have to take better care of Tua. He's going to require this entire summer off, this entire spring and summer, my apologies, off to just rehab, get himself in the right shape, see the right doctors, make sure he does the right things to do the best he can to get himself back physically where he needs to be able to absorb these blows and not have to take such tremendous punishment, especially under the rest that he's in and in the division that he's in, especially the conference. The AFC is especially talented right now, and those defenses are not letting up anytime soon. So Tua definitely needs to be taken more care of, and if he had been taken care of, perhaps they beat the Bills in that game. Considering the score being 34-31 Bills, as close as that game was a phenomenal game. I didn't really give Miami much of a chance, but they really hung in there, and they had a chance, and unfortunately it evaporated. So that'll be the focus on next year for Miami, is to get to the same spot and then do better, right, and execute better, and hopefully Tua is going to be healthy if he does continue to play football. He does need to sit down and consider his future because, again, we don't, you just something you never want to see is when a guy goes down. We saw the fingers and the pain that he was in, and I don't wish it on anybody. So, that's my thoughts. Miami season again is over, much as just like Tampa Bay season. So come on, Jaguars, you guys are the only guys left from Florida still in the playoff run with a shot at the big one. So guys, just good luck, Jags. Miami, rebuild. Your offensive line. Do what you guys got to do to protect your quarterback, and so that way he can deliver. Because again, when Tua's healthy, that team's a top 5 offense in the league. So with one of the best receiving cores in the league as well. So. Get better, Tua. Hope to see you back out there. Guys, let's go ahead and take this break, and when we get back, we'll go ahead and get it popping with some college football and talk about what information I have for you guys there. It's not going to be very much, but I'll still run it by you just to, get it all out there. Then we'll talk NBA, hockey, and baseball after that. All right, guys. Thank you for having it locked here at Palm Tree Sports. It's brought to you by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports, and I'll be right back at you. All right, guys?
What's up, sports fans? Are you looking for the latest on Northern California sports? Then take a trip out west with me, your host, Gina G, on Reppin' the NorCal Sports, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'll be bringing it to you all the way live every Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. And it's always a packed show. I'll bring you everything Dynastic 49ers, the bite of the San Jose Sharks, torture of the San Francisco Giants, the Golden State Warriors that we still believe. Then take you across the bay to the rise and grind of the Oakland A's. I've got you covered on college ball from the Cal Bears to the Stanford Cardinal, so that no matter what, reppin' the NorCal Sports is always reppin' the Bay. So if you bleed red and gold, or you're looking to keep an eye out west in them thar hills, don't miss me, Gina G, on reppin' the NorCal Sports. Catch me every Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, and I'll have your fandom repped harder than a trio of defenders guarding Stephen Curry before his buzzer beater is Gucci.
Lopan, they didn't even want you. Heck, they didn't even want me. But you know what? Right about now, they have no choice. Looking for the real sports talk? Talk that's for us, the people? Look no further. The Wait a Minute Show, a prime time sports comedy cocktail that tucks you in at night. Join me and Lopan Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 2livestewsradio.com and Saturday 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Wait a Minute Show.com. Sounds like a plan to me. Ain't that right, Lopan?
Indeed.
And you guys, you gotta love it, right? I want to go ahead and respond real quick to this because, what the Jaguars did was phenomenal and, one of the greatest comebacks of all time. Second greatest, right? If I'm not mistaken. So you love to see it. But welcome back, everybody, to Palm Tree Sports. Again, my name is Corey Pools, your host, and it's brought to you by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And, guys, we just covered the NFL part of the segment. Again, just touching back on the Jaguars, the second greatest comeback of all time or third? It was one of them. I think the Bills over the Oilers was the greatest comeback, and then there's something third greatest. Yeah, that's what I figured. Second, third greatest. And I agree with you with the Herbert slander because again, that was again somebody I watched in college, and the guy's a phenomenal guy. So, and he's a really good quarterback. So hopefully that team can stay healthy, next year and be more mature in the fourth quarter, I think is the only other thing I can say. And it's not necessarily Justin, but the rest of the team as far as discipline and execution is concerned. But pulling for those guys, and those Chargers, man. Pulling for you guys. So with that being said, let's go ahead and go right into this college football segment we have going on here. There's not a lot to talk about college football, and again, I'm going to say that pretty much until we have a lot more to go on. There was some drama that I mentioned last week about the University of Florida original flip from Miami, Jaden Rashada. So I mentioned there was going to be fallout, and there was pretty much exactly what I predicted. He was going to go ahead and want out, and the Gators were going to release him, and that's exactly what happened. So now we have no quarterback for the future as far as our young talent is concerned, and from a 5-star perspective. But Billy Napier, he still has time to recruit. All the teams are still recruiting. Florida State's still recruiting. Miami's still recruiting. That's pretty much all there is for those two teams as far as that's concerned. There hasn't been too much drama. Florida State's looking to utilize the portal, I believe, to acquire a few more guys to just plug in and start at just some smaller positions. But for the most part, they're returning a lot of players. They're going to be really good this year. And I mentioned that last week, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to beat that down until more information comes down the hatchet as far as that's concerned. As for the Gators, we're just going to have to wait and see. We're just going to have to wait and see because Billy Napier is going to have to work his magic. He's going to have to find some guys that are going to be willing to play under his tutelage and acquire the knowledge he has to offer from a coaching perspective and be able to use it at the next level. He sent, some guys to the pros already. So he's already shown what talent he can cultivate, but we're going to need more than that if we're going to really challenge Georgia. We gave Georgia a run for their money last year, especially if you're watching that third quarter, but they pulled out in the second half of that third quarter, really took over that game and ran away with it, much like they did with the national championship. So with that being said, hopefully we can perform better. Hopefully we can actually, give Georgia a fit. But until then, we got to recruit better, and that's the only way things are going to get better. All right. Of course, coaching is going to come along as we go. It's only been 1 year. So Florida State, like I said, looks good. They're probably going to be the best team coming out of Florida next year. Wouldn't be surprised if they start the team ranked in the top 10, especially after them, being able to return so many players and them go, was it 10-3 on the season? It was. So a very respectable record, something you like to see, especially out of the ACC. The only team better than them was Clemson. So congrats again to those guys for playing well and returning a bunch of players. Miami was a state in disarray. That was a team that is just going to need a lot of help, especially through the portal and recruiting. They're going to need some guys with some leadership and some veteran playing time to come in and really help shape up that team. That team needs the help desperately. And when I say need, I'm stressing it simply because Florida's more or less always been decent at recruiting. They've never really struggled with recruiting simply because, much like Florida State and Miami down south, they possess a title, worth playing for. The difference is where you're from and where you're trying to go and also what you're trying to major in. So you get a lot of players who go down south and you get some players that, stay up north or they go wherever they feel comfortable. Well, Miami's got to get back to that because they haven't recruited well over the last few years. They just have not recruited well, and that's just the truth of it. And it's very unfortunate to see, especially from a once powerhouse team. So that's what I have for college football. As we get closer to the springtime, then we'll be able to know when those practice games are going to hit the field and when you'll be able to watch them. Most of them are going to be either on TV or live on YouTube or some streaming platform. I've watched a few of them live through YouTube myself. So that's where I would suggest you guys check those out. Moving over to the NBA, we're going to go ahead and obviously cover the Orlando Magic, but we're also going to cover the Miami Heat. Of course, we're going to talk about what's going on and difference between the two teams. I haven't covered the Heat in a few weeks, but now they're back on the radar, and I love it because I personally am a Miami Heat fan. I was a Heat fan I've been a Heat fan for a couple of decades now. I think I've always had respect for the team, and being from Florida, you kind of pick a team, and for me, I was more Miami Heat. My dad's the Orlando Magic guy, so we'll go with the Orlando Magic first, though, and with that, they are 17-28 right now on the record, so they are not, again, they're not doing very well. They're still young. It is what it is. Same thing last week. They got the Wizards today at 7 p.m., so they're going to be playing about half an hour. The Wizards ain't doing nothing too special either, okay? Their record's only 19-26, so it's not like these are two, powerhouse teams about to go at it and duke it out. This is probably going to be a mistake-filled ball game with two teams trying to figure out, or one team's going to come out and just start slinging it. It's going to be pretty much one or the other. But like I said, both of these teams are in rebuilding stages, and they're trying to get better, and that's going to take time. Obviously, it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in just 1 year. So it's going to take some time. They'll eventually return to the top of the food chain, and the chain will circulate just as it has countless times before, and in which case it's doing for Miami Heat right now, actually, as they're returning into form once having a losing record earlier in the season. Now they're pushing more dubs than L's out, and that's good, especially, considering that the East is completely questionable. Obviously you got Boston and you have Milwaukee, but then, there's going to be a few teams at the end that are going to have a chance to win and be in. So that's the point more or less that I'm making, in my opinion. If Miami continue to play well, especially after the break, they may be in that discussion just as well as, 76ers and the Nets. So we'll see what happens. We can only go from there. As far as the Magic is concerned, again, same thing pretty much until they get better, which is they're going to have to continue to rebuild, continue to get, more experience and develop. That's all they can do. That's all they can do right now. With that, there's not as much, to give aside from that in regards to what's going on in the NBA. The Heat they were on a 5-game winning streak at one point, so they were looking good when they were putting their record back together. Again, they did have a losing record. They're now sitting at 25-22, and they're trying to increase that. But now they're struggling again, and they're falling back into that area where they're like, hey, we're going to win a game, lose a game, win a game, lose a game. And you can't make the playoffs with that kind of mentality playing basketball, okay? So they're going to have to shape up, be more disciplined, and they're going to have to get home and finish. That's the key. They lost to the Mavericks 115-90. Kind of a one-sided affair, as you can tell. I've always said that if you want to win a basketball game, you got to score over 100 and keep them from scoring over 100. And unfortunately, they were on the back end of that stick, and so they're going to have to shape that up, especially in the fourth. So good luck to both teams. The Orlando Magic, again, they have uphill, a hill to climb, if you will, and Miami's just going to have to continue to hang in there and get better in the fourth. So good luck to both of those teams. As far as the Bolts are concerned, moving over to the NHL, the Bolts sit at 29-14-1, very respectable record, third in the Atlantic. So it's about what you would expect right now from the Lightning. This is more or less where they've been at the last couple of years. In 1, 2, or 3 spot with a position to control their own destiny, and they've been playing well. I'm very happy with the way that they've been playing. Unfortunately, they were down 3-2 to the Flames the last time I saw that game. Now, the Flames are sporting a 21-16-9 record, so not necessarily a team you're trying to be down a goal to, especially going in late. You don't want to lose to a team, with all due respect, that's not doing as hot as you guys are, okay? You guys kind of want to stay on that hot wave, that 5 of 6 hot wave that they have been on, and that's what you'd like to see. You know what I'm saying? Winning streaks. That's how you do it. For those who play Call of Duty, for instance, that's how you win a game, right? You put these kill streaks together, you get the results of the kill streaks, and they stack up, and then boom, you win. For anybody who's done that, any kind of game whatsoever, in regards to a situation where scoring is paramount, hey, you guys know what I'm talking about. So hopefully the Bulls can get it together. Like I said, third in the Atlantic. 1, 2, and 3 is where they've been flirting at the last few years, more or less. The last 5 years, give or take, honestly, and hopefully we can return to form, especially when the playoffs roll around and we can control the ice and control our own destiny, and possibly end up in our 4th Stanley Cup final and maybe bring in our 3rd in the last 4 years. That would be phenomenal if we could do that, guys. Let's go ahead and take one more break. And when we get back from that break, we'll go ahead and talk. We'll talk about the last bit, which is going to be the Rays and the spring training that's going to be coming up. I believe there's a UFC event, so I'll speak a little bit on that. And other than that, guys, I'll get you warmed up for what's going on the rest of the night. And then from there, we'll break and we'll get back here same time next week. So thank you guys for having it locked here at Palm Tree Sports. Again, I am your host, Corey Pujols. It's brought to you by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Again, keep it locked right here, and we'll be back in a few moments.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Rate Here to give you what you want. Here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy awesome white tea. They're coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson,
It's your boy Dentarius Lava.
and we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys spending time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Yeah, that's right, guys. IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Can't say enough good things about this place. I'm very happy to be here and to have my own show. It's a blessing. And, of course, it wouldn't be right for me to leave you guys without departing on, speaking on the last topic, of course, MLB, and leave you guys with, what to watch, what to check out for tonight. So we'll go ahead and get it popping with that. But first things first, again, I am your host, Corey Pujols. This is Palm Tree Sports, brought to you by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And so the spring training part is going to start in about a month. We got, the Rays are going to go ahead and have their first game on February 25th. It's going to be at 1:05 p.m. against the Twins. That'll be the first spring game again. I look forward to seeing it. I enjoy springtime here. It's basically just the beginning of summer. Really not much of spring, so basically we're just going to get right into baseball season. That's what we do down here. We just right into it. Sun's going to be out. It's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait to see those boys get out there on the mound and hash it up in the dirt. It'll be a great time. Once baseball's back into the full swing of things, and depending on how things go for me, I'll try to check out some games this week, or this year, not this week, but this year. and be able to see our guys. I haven't been to a baseball game in a few years, so that'll be a lot of fun. But that's basically it. Like I said, just waiting for spring to start. All the regular faces should be popping up for the most part at spring training, and hopefully we'll see some of our understudies pop up from the minor leagues, because we have some good looking guys actually. Recruits coming out of there. So we'll see what happens, and we'll go from there, especially when springtime starts. Now, as far as things to check out for tonight, right? So there's actually another loaded night. I love to, leave you guys with a little bit of information on what's going on, especially if you don't know what to watch, right? So if you're into basketball, there's a bunch of college basketball going on right now. That's one of the biggest things at the turn of the year. Is everybody's going to get ready for March Madness coming up in a few months, and it's always it's not just about, the matchups and Vegas and all that other stuff, but it's also about this young talent that's going to be coming out. These guys are going to be guys that you're going to see again in the pros. So it's always a good idea to check it out. I know whenever I'm anywhere near a game that's on, whether I like the team or not, I'm always paying attention, always checking the names and listening to what they're having to say about these guys, because again, we're going to see them in the future. And what a shame it would be if you didn't know who Ja Morant was until just now. Right, I'm just saying, for those who don't know, he was a baller in college too, and he was, when you get to the pros, it really stands out. A lot less teams. So that's the first thing to mention. Of course, like I said, if you're into basketball, a bunch of college basketball. Now, if you're like me and you love the martial arts, there is going to be UFC 283 tonight. Again, I'm not going to go too in depth into this, but it's, just in case it's something you're interested in. For me, again, it's going to be a great one. This is a loaded card for anybody who is new to mixed martial arts. You got some of the best fighters in today's martial arts are going to be duking it out tonight. In my opinion, two of the best fighters, probably two of the top 10 fighters in the world right now, in Deiveson Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno. I am a huge Brandon Moreno fan. I am a huge Assassin Baby fan. That's his nickname. He's absolutely phenomenal fighter. He's one of the first guys to really take Deiveson Figueiredo there, and in my opinion, he's really the one guy that can actually bring it to him and stop him and beat him. And Deiveson Figueiredo, on the opposite hand, is just a tank. He is an absolute tiger, okay, of a tank in there, and he's just a guy that, I'll tell you what, if I had to fight him, I probably would lay it all on the line. I would have to. He doesn't take any nights off. He's not going to be easy guy to beat. That's the co-main event, though. The main event is going to be Glover Teixeira versus Jamal Hill for the lightweight title. It's been vacated due to Yuri Prochazka's injury, so that's going to be a good thing to look out for. It's going to be a great main event. Teixeira at 43, just turned 43 years old, is going to be going in there with a guy much younger than him, much faster, so we're going to see how he equips with that, but he's going to have the experience edge. So that's going to be a great main event, in my opinion. I can't wait to see what happens. I won't be surprised if that match ends in a finish, whether they're going the distance. And the co-main event is going to be Gilbert Burns versus I can't remember his first name, but Magny is his last name, Magny. And this guy, Magny, he has the most wins in welterweight history, all right? UFC welterweight history, all right? But he's going in there with Gilbert Burns, an absolute madman, an absolute tank of a human being, a specimen that I would not necessarily want to encounter. Three-time Brazilian national champion in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, absolutely nutcase in the octagon. It's going to be a great fight. Can't wait to see what happens there. Lastly, we'll wrap it up with some football, guys. Obviously, you got the Giants-Eagles after this game that's going on right now, which is the Jaguars and the Chiefs. That's going to, create the first slot. The second slot will be filled by the Bills and the Bengals tomorrow at 3. So they're also getting the first game. Both NFC games are going to be after that, or the secondary games. The Giants-Eagles, again, is 8:15 tonight, and then tomorrow night is going to be the Cowboys-Niners, 6:30. All right, 6:30, not 8:15, 6:30, guys. With that being said, my quick take on these things, I hope the Jaguars are able to come out and put a win on the table against it. I imagine if they do win the game, it'll be 27-20, or 27-24, something around 25. Maybe it's going to be an awkward score, but I think it'll be a close game if the Jaguars can pull it out. If not, it'll stay close, and I give it to the Chiefs. They're going to fight till the end. So it is what it is there. Giants-Eagles, I'm not sure what to make of this game, simply because it is a third time of two teams meeting in the same season. Whenever that happens, it could be a toss-up. It could be whichever team shows up and performs better. That's usually the case. I would like to say that the Giants can get this, especially having Saquon playing the way that he is right now. And I've always said that if Saquon goes off, they're going to win that game. But the Eagles had the best record in the league for a reason. Jalen Hurts was absolutely surgical and when it mattered most, and he may be able to do it again. So if he is, I suspect, a low-scoring game there. I wouldn't be surprised if that score barely breaks 30 points. If not, I'm going to go ahead and say 31-27, that ball game. Then you have the Bills-Bengals. That one's most likely going to be a shootout. You got two Cowboys. Watch JB in college. Josh Allen, I saw a little bit, not as much as JB, but I can tell you this much. JB's not going to lay down and let you take it from him. You're going to have to rip it. All right, you're going to have to rip it. There's no way around that. That guy is an absolute baller. That guy is as good as it gets when it comes to the young guys. But, Josh Allen ain't no pushover either, but he needs to be careful turning the ball over, especially on these deep passes where receivers only seem to be in single coverage, but he's actually throwing into double and triple coverage, which I've seen him fall into that trap multiple times. So in order for those teams to be good, one of their running backs are going to have to go off, whether it's from out of the backfield or just straight up old-fashioned pounding the rock. So we'll see what happens there between those two teams. Cowboys and Niners, in my opinion, is going to be a wash. All right, so watch that game at your own discretion. I'm going to go ahead and give it to the Niners. Brock Purdy is absolutely that dude. I'm not too keen on being on the opposite end of getting, for all intents and purposes, an ass kicking, excuse my French, guys, but let's just call a spade what it is. The 49ers are absolutely decimating what we thought the rest of the league looked like and could be behind the number one defense in the league. Congratulations to the Niners. Congratulations to the Cowboys for being the Buccaneers, but I just don't see how they can pull this out unless Dak Prescott literally put the cape on and turns into Superman. We'll see what happens there, guys. That's all I have for you as far as things to check out tonight. So whether you're watching football, basketball, mixed martial arts, whatever your thing is, hockey, hey, enjoy it. Have a great time. We'll be back here same time, same place next week, 6 p.m. We'll be talking all things sports in Florida, and, we'll go over a couple other things. Like I said, you always have some quick notes for you guys, things just for you to, food for thought, if you will. So I really appreciate you guys checking me out today. If you have the chance, hit me up on Twitter with your feedback, anything that you guys may think or, something I can add to the segment. Let your boy know. We'll start to incorporate things and try to get a better understanding of what you guys want and go from there, guys. I really appreciate you hanging out with me and having it locked here at Palm Tree Sports. It is brought to you by eSports Radio. I am your host, Corey Pujols, and again, thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Enjoy your Sunday. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Spend time with your loved ones, and I'll catch you guys next week. Thank you. Goodbye.